The ocean does not return what it takes. But 33 years later, it did. A silver ring, encrusted with barnacles and shame. Her mother threw it away to erase the past. Have you ever held something you thought was lost forever? The ring should not exist. Lyra holds it in her palm at the edge of Crescent Shore, barefoot in cold sand, dawn light breaking soft and gold across the water. The metal is silver beneath a crust of barnacles and salt. It weighs almost nothing. Her fingers tremble around it. She does not remember this ring, but she knows it. 33 years ago, her mother stood exactly here and threw it into the ocean. Lyra was 7 years old. She remembers the scream. Raw and animal, ripping through the fog like something tearing open. She remembers the arc of silver spinning through the air, catching light for one impossible second before it vanished into the waves. She remembers her mother collapsing onto the sand afterward, sobbing so hard her body folded in half. Lyra stood 5 feet away and said nothing. She did not know what betrayal meant. She only knew her mother was breaking. The ocean swallowed the ring. The tide pulled it under. Lyra believed it was gone forever. But 3 days ago, a fisherman named Cale found it tangled in netting 3 miles offshore. Barnacles had fused to the band. Salt had corroded the edges. But inside, faintly visible beneath layers of erosion, were her mother's initials. M-A-R, Maren Aelith Riven. Cale brought it to Lyra because he knew her mother. Everyone on this coast knew Maren. She was the woman who sang too loud at the harbor, the woman who drank until she couldn't stand, the woman who died 8 years ago in a motel room with a needle in her arm. Lyra stares at the ring now and feels her chest tighten. The ocean does not return what it takes. She knows the science. She has spent 15 years studying marine ecosystems, tracking currents, mapping the movement of sediment and debris. Objects sink, they drift, they corrode into nothing. The probability of this ring surfacing after 3 decades, intact, identifiable, within miles of where it was thrown, is so small it borders on impossible. And yet here it is, cold and gritty in her hand. A gull cries overhead, sharp and mournful. The waves pull and retreat in slow rhythm, dragging foam across the sand. The air smells like brine and kelp, and something older, something that tastes like memory. Lyra closes her fingers around the ring. Her hands are shaking. She has not thought about her mother in months. She has trained herself not to. Grief is a muscle you can learn to ignore if you practice long enough. You wake up. You work. You catalog tide pools and measure salinity levels, and write reports no one reads. You build a life out of small, predictable things. You do not look back. But the ring is looking back at her. She turns it slowly, feeling the roughness of barnacles against her palm. They have grown over the silver like armor, tiny calcified shells clinging to metal. She wonders how long it took. How many years the ring spent tumbling along the ocean floor before something, current, chance, gravity, lifted it into a fisherman's net. She wonders if her mother ever regretted throwing it. Lyra's throat tightens. She swallows hard. The sun rises higher, painting the water in shades of amber and rose. The beach is empty except for her. The sand is cold beneath her bare feet. She realizes she has been standing here for 20 minutes without moving. She does not know what to do with this. She does not know what it means that the ocean gave it back. Her mother threw the ring in rage. Lyra remembers that much. There had been a fight. Her mother screaming at someone on the phone, voice cracking, words Lyra was too young to understand. Then Maren hung up. She walked outside. She pulled the ring from her finger and stared at it for a long time, face pale and wet with tears. Then she threw it as hard as she could. Lyra followed her to the shore. She watched the ring disappear. She watched her mother sink to her knees in the sand, shoulders heaving, hands pressed against her face. Lyra wanted to say something. She did not know what, so she stood there in silence until her mother finally stood up, wiped her eyes, and walked back to the house without looking at her. They never spoke about it again. And now, decades later, the ring is back. Lyra lifts it toward the light. Dawn refracts through the barnacle crust, scattering tiny rainbows. Across the silver, her mother's initials are barely visible, worn almost smooth by time and salt. But they are there, proof that Marin existed. Proof that she loved someone once. Proof that she was capable of rage so deep she tried to erase her own memory. Lyra's hands tremble harder. She does not want this. She does not want to feel the weight of her mother's choices pressing into her palm. She does not want to remember the woman who sang lullabies one night and disappeared for 3 days the next. She does not want to carry the ghost of someone who could not carry herself. But the ocean has given her no choice. She closes her fist around the ring and feels the cold metal bite into her skin. The waves crash. The gulls cry. The world keeps turning. And Lyra stands at the edge of Crescent Shore, holding something that should not exist, feeling her body shake with a grief she thought she had buried long ago. For 3 days, the ring sits on Lyra's kitchen counter. She does not wear it. She does not throw it away. She does not put it in a drawer or a box or anywhere she might forget it exists. It stays exactly where she placed it the morning she brought it home, next to the coffee maker, under the flat white light of the ceiling fixture. She looks at it every time she walks past. Lyra is 40 years old. She works as a marine biologist for the Coastal Ecology Institute, cataloging tide pool ecosystems along a 12-mile stretch of shoreline. Her job is precise, methodical. She measures water temperature. She photographs anemones and starfish. She records data in leather-bound notebooks with neat, careful handwriting. She lives alone in a small cottage overlooking Crescent Shore. White walls, clean counters, no photographs on the walls. The only decoration is a single shelf of field guides and a potted succulent she forgets to water. She has built a life out of control. Musa, her mother, was chaos. Marin was laughter that turned to sobbing without warning. She was 3 days of silence, followed by manic dancing in the kitchen at 2 a.m. She was love that felt like drowning. Lyra learned early that survival meant distance, so she became the opposite. Quiet where her mother was loud, still where her mother was spinning, predictable where her mother was a storm. And it worked. For decades, it worked. Until the ring came back. Now Lyra stands in her kitchen at 6 a.m, coffee cooling in her hand, staring at a piece of silver that should not exist. The barnacles have dried. The salt has crystallized into tiny white grains along the band. Under the fluorescent light, the metal gleams coldly. She has tried to rationalize it. She has spent 2 nights at her desk, pulling up ocean current maps and drift models. She has calculated tidal patterns and storm surges. She has traced the probable trajectory of an object thrown from Crescent Shore 33 years ago. The data does not support its return. An object that small, that dense, should have sunk. It should have been buried in sediment or carried miles offshore by deep currents. Even if it surfaced, the probability of it drifting back to the exact coastline where it was thrown, let alone being found intact, is infinitesimally small. But here it is. The science fails her. The logic collapses, and Lyra does not know what to do with impossibility. She sets her coffee down. The silence in the cottage presses against her ears. She hears the hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of the floorboards, the sound of her own breathing. She has not spoken to anyone about the ring. She has not told Kale why it mattered. She has not called Tavi, her oldest friend, who would ask too many questions. She has not written about it in her journal. For the first time in 6 years, Lara stopped writing in her research journal. She opened it yesterday morning. She held her pen. She stared at the blank page, and she could not make herself write. The routine, the one thing that has kept her steady since her mother's death, feels suddenly fragile, breakable, like if she writes one more line about barnacle adhesion or water salinity, something inside her will crack open. So she closed the notebook. She put it back on the shelf, and she has not touched it since. A knock on the door startles her. Lyra turns. Through the window, she sees Seville standing on her porch, holding a basket of tomatoes from his garden. He is 76 years old, with weathered hands and soft eyes. He has lived next door for as long as Lyra can remember. He knew her mother. Lyra hesitates. Then she opens the door. "Morning," Seville says quietly. His voice is warm, careful. "Thought you might want these." "Thank you." Lyra takes the basket. She does not invite him in. But Seville's gaze drifts past her, into the kitchen, to the counter. He sees the ring. His face goes pale. For a long moment, he says nothing. He just stares at it, mouth slightly open, eyes wide. Then he looks at Lyra. "Where did you get that?" His voice is barely a whisper. Lyra's throat tightens. "A fisherman found it, 3 miles offshore." Seville blinks. His hand rises to his chest, pressing against his ribs like he is trying to steady his heartbeat. "That's not possible." "I know. Your mother threw that into the ocean 33 years ago." Lyra nods. She does not trust herself to speak. Seville steps closer. He does not ask permission. He walks into the kitchen and stands in front of the counter, staring down at the ring like it is the ghost. His fingers twitch, but he does not touch it. "She loved that ring," he says softly. "It was her mother's. Your grandmother's." Lyra's breath catches. She did not know that. Seville looks at her. His eyes are wet. "Marin told me once that she threw it away because she didn't deserve to wear it. She said she'd failed, that she was broken like her mother was broken, and she couldn't stand carrying that memory anymore." Lyra feels something cold settle in her chest. "She regretted it," Seville continues. His voice cracks. "Every day after, she regretted it. She told me once, maybe 5 years before she died, that if she could go back, she would have kept it. She would have given it to you." The kitchen is silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of Lyra's heartbeat in her ears. Seville's hand hovers over the ring. Then he pulls back. He looks at Lyra, eyes full of something that might be sorrow or hope or both. "She wanted you to have it back," he whispers. Then he turns and walks out. Lyra stands alone in the kitchen, staring at the ring. Salt air drifts through the open window. The faint smell of brine clings to the metal. Outside, gulls cry. Waves crash against the shore. And Lyra realizes the ocean did not return this by accident. It returned it because she was finally ready to receive it. Her hands begin to shake again. The dreams start on the 4th night. Not nightmares. Memories. Lyra wakes at 3 in the morning with her mother's voice still ringing in her ears. Not the screaming. Not the slurred, desperate pleading. The singing. Marin used to sing while she cooked. Off-key, too loud, filling the kitchen with a joy that felt almost violent in its brightness. Lyra remembers standing on a chair, watching her mother stir pasta sauce. Barefoot and spinning in circles, hair wild around her shoulders. "Come here, baby," Marin had said, laughing. "Dance with me." And Lyra had. She had let her mother lift her down and spin her round the tiny kitchen until they were both dizzy and breathless. That was before the silence, before the disappearances, before Lara learned that her mother's joy was just the surface of something deeper and darker. But in the dream, Lyra is 7 again, and her mother is whole. She sits up in bed, throat tight, grief rising like a wave she cannot stop. The ring is still on the kitchen counter. She has not touched it since Sival left, but she can feel it, even from here. Even in the dark, it is pulling at her. By dawn, Lyra is standing at Crescent Shore. The beach is empty. Fog rolls in from the ocean, thick and gray, softening the edges of the world. The sand is cold and damp beneath her bare feet. She has not bothered with shoes. She walks to the place where her mother stood 33 years ago. She knows the exact spot. She has avoided it her entire adult life, but she knows it. The curve of the shore, the angle of the rocks, the way the water pulls at the sand in a particular rhythm. Lyra stops. She stares out at the waves. She tries to imagine what her mother felt in that moment. The betrayal, the fury, the decision to destroy something beautiful rather than let it remain a lie. Maren had loved someone. Lyra does not know who. She only knows that love ended badly enough that her mother wanted to erase it from her body. The ring was her mother's inheritance, a piece of her own mother, Lyra's grandmother, who died before Lyra was born. Maren threw away the only physical memory she had left. Lyra wonders if her mother regretted it immediately, or if it took years. She wonders if Maren ever came back here, looking for it. The ocean does not answer. It only crashes and pulls, indifferent and eternal. Lyra reaches into her pocket. She brought the ring with her. She does not remember deciding to. She only remembers standing in her kitchen, staring at it, and then closing her hand around it and walking out the door. Now she holds it up to the pale morning light. The barnacles catch the fog. The silver gleams faintly beneath the crust. Her heart is pounding. She lowers her hand. She looks down at the ring, and before she can think, before she can stop herself, she slips it onto her finger. It fits perfectly. The metal is cold. The weight of it settles against her skin like something alive. She stares at her hand, trembling, and feels terror rise in her chest. She does not know why this terrifies her, but it does. Wearing the ring feels like claiming something, like stepping into a lineage she has spent her entire life running from. Her grandmother's grief, her mother's rage, and now hers, 3 generations of women, bound by silver and salt and unhealed wounds. The waves crash. The fog thickens. Lyra's breath sinks with the rhythm of the ocean, and for a moment, she feels like she is not alone. Like the shore is watching her. Like her mother is watching her. She closes her hand into a fist, feeling the ring press into her palm. "I don't know what you want from me," she whispers. The ocean does not answer, but it does not need to. Lyra already knows. That evening, Tavi knocks on her door. Lyra opens it to find her oldest friend standing on the porch, holding a bottle of wine and wearing a soft, knowing smile. Tavi is 42, 2 years older than Lyra. She has kind eyes and a steady voice and a job as a trauma therapist that has made her uncomfortably good at seeing through walls. "You've been avoiding me," Tavi says. Lyra does not deny it. She steps aside and lets her in. They sit at the kitchen table. Tavi pours 2 glasses of wine. She does not ask about the ring immediately, but Lyra knows she has seen it. Tavi sees everything. "You're wearing it," Tavi says finally. Lyra looks down at her hand. The ring is still there. She has not taken it off since this morning. "I don't know why," Lyra says quietly. Yes, you do. Lyra's jaw tightens. She does not want to do this. She does not want to talk about her mother, or the ring, or the dreams that have started pulling her backward into memory. But Tavi is patient. She waits. And eventually, Lyra breaks. It was my grandmother's, she says. Her voice is hoarse. Marin threw it away because she thought she didn't deserve it. And now it's back. And I don't know what that means. Tavi nods slowly. She takes a sip of wine. Then she leans forward, elbows on the table, and looks at Lyra with that steady, unflinching gaze. You've been running from her your whole life, Tavi says softly. Lyra flinches. You built this entire existence to be the opposite of her. Tavi continues. Quiet. Controlled. Safe. And it worked. You survived. But Lyra... She pauses. Her voice gentles. Maybe she's asking you to stop running. Lyra's throat closes. She stares down at the ring on her finger, vision blurring. I don't know how, she whispers. Tavi reaches across the table and covers Lyra's hand with hers. You already started. You're wearing the ring. Lyra does not respond. She cannot. Because Tavi is right. She has taken the first step, and now there is no going back. After Tavi leaves, Lyra stands at her kitchen window, staring out at the darkening ocean. The ring is still on her finger. The weight of it feels heavier now, significant. She thinks of her mother. She thinks of her grandmother. She thinks of herself, standing between them like a bridge over water that has already pulled them both under. And for the first time in years, Lyra does not try to push the grief away. She lets it rise. She lets it fill her chest. She lets it break open the carefully constructed walls she has spent decades building. The ocean returned the ring, and Lyra is beginning to understand why. Lyra finds the box on a Saturday morning while searching for her old field notes. It is small, cardboard, unmarked, shoved in the back of her closet behind a stack of winter coats she never wears. She does not remember packing it. 8 years ago, after her mother died, Lyra drove to the motel where Marin had been living. She collected her mother's belongings in silence. Clothes, a few books, a bottle of perfume that still smelled like her. She brought everything back to the cottage and put it all in boxes she never opened. She could not look at it then. She is not sure she can look at it now. But she pulls the box out anyway. She sets it on the floor. She opens it. Inside are letters, dozens of them, all in her mother's handwriting, all unsent. Lyra's breath catches. She lifts the first envelope. It is addressed to someone named David. The second is addressed to Sival. The third has no name at all. Just the words, to whoever finds this, scrawled across the front. And then she sees it. An envelope at the bottom of the box, yellowed with age. The ink slightly faded. Addressed to her. Lyra. Her hands begin to shake. The date is written in the corner. 3 months before her mother died. Lyra stares at it for a long time. Her heart is pounding so hard she can hear it in her ears. She does not want to open it. She does not want to know what her mother had to say after 12 years of silence. But she cannot stop herself. She tears the envelope open. She unfolds the letter, and she begins to read. Lyra, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to send it. But I need to write it down. I need you to know the truth, even if I'm too much of a coward to say it to your face. The ring wasn't about a man. I know that's what you thought. I know you saw me throw it and assumed it was because someone hurt me. But that's not what happened. The ring was my mother's. Your grandmother's. She gave it to me 3 days before she died. I was 19. She was 41. She had bipolar disorder, just like me. She tried to manage it. She tried so hard, but in the end it consumed her. She told me to keep the ring. She said it was proof that we survived, that even when the world felt like it was collapsing, we were still here. I wore it for years. I wore it through everything. through the good days and the bad days and the days I wanted to disappear. I wore it when you were born. I wore it the first time I held you and promised I would be better than she was. But I wasn't. I failed, Lyra. I failed you the same way my mother failed me. I couldn't stop the spiral. I couldn't stop the rage or the silence or the disappearing. I tried. God, I tried, but I was broken like she was broken. And I couldn't stand it. So I threw the ring into the ocean, not because someone betrayed me, because I betrayed myself. I betrayed you. I didn't deserve to carry her memory. I didn't deserve to wear something that was supposed to mean survival when all I did was destroy everything I touched. I wanted the ocean to take it. I wanted the ocean to take my shame and bury it so deep I'd never have to look at it again. But I think about it every day. I think about standing on that beach with you, watching me. I think about the way you looked at me afterward. Like you were afraid of me. Like you didn't know who I was. You were right to be afraid. I was dangerous. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I couldn't stop hurting myself. And I knew that if I stayed in your life, I would pull you under with me. So I let you go. I know you think I abandoned you out of cruelty, but Lyra, I abandoned you because I loved you. Because you deserved better than a mother who couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. Better than a mother who screamed and cried and broke things and then apologized like that made it okay. You deserved better than me. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to understand. But I need you to know. Every bad thing I did to myself, not to you. You were never the problem. I was. I love you. I have always loved you, even when I couldn't show it. I'm sorry I couldn't be the mother you needed. Marin Lyra reads the letter 3 times. The first time she cannot breathe. The second time tears fall onto the ink, blurring her mother's shaky handwriting. The third time she collapses onto the floor, pressing the letter to her chest, and sobs. Not quiet tears, not controlled grief. She breaks. She breaks the way her mother broke, the way her grandmother broke. She breaks like something inside her has been holding too much weight for too long, and finally gives way. Her breathing is uneven, ragged. The wind rattles the cottage windows. The sound mingles with her sobs until she cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. The ring is still on her finger. She can feel the weight of it now. Not just her mother's grief, but her grandmother's. 3 generations of women who believed they did not deserve to be loved. 3 generations who carried shame like a second skin. And Lyra realizes her mother did not abandon her out of cruelty. She abandoned her out of self-hatred so deep she could not bear to be witnessed. Marin did not throw the ring at Lyra. She threw it at herself. And the ocean held it. The ocean kept it safe. The ocean waited 33 years until Lyra was strong enough to understand. Lyra presses her forehead to the floor. She holds the letter against her heart. And she whispers the words she has never been able to say. I forgive you. The cottage is silent except for the sound of her breathing, the wind, the distant crash of waves. And for the first time in 8 years, Lyra feels her mother's presence not as a ghost, but as a truth she can finally hold. For 2 weeks, Lyra does not work. She calls the institute and tells them she is sick. It is not a lie. Grief is a kind of sickness, one that settles in your bones and makes it impossible to pretend you are fine. She spends every morning at Crescent Shore. She walks barefoot along the water's edge, wearing the ring, and she speaks aloud to her mother. At first, the words feel strange, awkward, like trying to remember a language she has not spoken in years. But the more she talks, the easier it becomes. I forgive you, she says to the waves. Her voice is raw and small, carried by the wind. But I'm also angry at you. The ocean does not answer, but it listens. I'm angry that you left, Lyra continues. I'm angry that you thought leaving was the answer. I'm angry that you believed you were too broken to be loved. Her footprints fill with seawater behind her. The sand is cold and damp beneath her feet. The ring glints in the morning light, barnacles catching the sun. I miss you, she whispers. I miss you so much it still hurts. And I don't know how to be your daughter when you're gone. The waves crash, the gulls cry, the world keeps turning, and Lyra keeps walking. She begins to see the shape of her life differently. For decades, she has defined herself in opposition to her mother, controlled because Marn was chaotic, silent because Marn was loud, alone because Marn's love felt like drowning. She has built an entire existence as a reaction, a defense, a way to prove she was not her mother. But she has never asked herself, who would I be if I stopped running? The question terrifies her, because if she is not the opposite of her mother, then who is she? She does not have an answer yet, but she is beginning to understand that finding one will require letting go of the version of herself she has clung to for so long. The version that survived by staying small, by staying silent, by keeping everyone at arm's length. That version kept her safe, but it also kept her alone. And Lyra is tired of being alone. One evening, as the sun sets over Crescent Shore, Civil finds her sitting in the sand. He does not ask permission. He simply lowers himself down beside her, joints creaking, and stares out at the water. They sit in silence for a long time. Finally, Civil speaks. His voice is soft, careful. You've been coming here every day. Lyra nods. She does not trust herself to speak. Talking to her? Another nod. Civil is quiet for a moment. Then he says, That's good. She would have liked that. Lyra's throat tightens. Tears prick at her eyes, but she does not let them fall. I don't know if it's helping, she admits. Her voice cracks. I don't know if anything helps. Civil looks at her. His eyes are kind, sad, full of a grief that mirrors her own. Grief doesn't end, he says quietly, but it can become something softer, if you let it. Lyra turns to him. How? By letting it be what it is, by not trying to fix it or bury it or pretend it doesn't exist, by just carrying it, the way you'd carry something precious. He gestures to the ring on her finger. Like that. Lyra looks down at her hand. The ring is warm now, no longer cold. The barnacles have dried into pale, delicate patterns. The silver beneath catches the fading light. She realizes she has been carrying this ring for weeks, and it has not destroyed her. Maybe grief is the same. Maybe forgiveness is not about erasing the past. Maybe it is about letting it be whole, broken parts and all. If you have ever inherited pain you did not choose, share this story. Some things only heal when they are spoken aloud. Civil stands slowly. He places a hand on Lyra's shoulder, just for a moment, and then he walks back toward his cottage, leaving her alone with the ocean and the fading light. Lyra stays on the beach until the stars come out. She speaks to her mother one more time. I don't know who I am without you, she says. Her voice is steadier now, calmer. But I think I'm ready to find out. The wind blows cold against her face. The ring presses warm against her skin. The waves crash in their endless rhythm, pulling and retreating, and Lyra feels something shift inside her. Not healing, not yet, but the beginning of it. The willingness to try. Over the next few days, small things change. She opens her research journal again. She writes one sentence, then another. The words come slowly, but they come. She calls Tavi and tells her about the letter. Tavi listens without interrupting. When Lyra finishes, Tavi says simply, "I'm proud of you." Lyra does not know how to respond to that, so she just says, "Thank you." She starts sleeping through the night again. The dreams of her mother continue, but they are softer now, less haunted. In one dream, Maren is braiding her hair on the porch. In another, they are dancing in the kitchen. Lyra wakes from these dreams with tears on her face. But they are not painful tears. They are the kind that come when you remember something beautiful you thought you had lost forever. She still wears the ring. It has become a part of her now. A reminder. A bridge, not just to her mother, but to herself. She wears it when she walks the beach. She wears it when she catalogs barnacles in tide pools. She wears it when she sits at her kitchen table and stares out at the ocean, thinking about all the ways love can break you, and all the ways it can hold you together. The ring is no longer a relic of pain. It is reconciliation, a promise that grief does not have to mean erasure, that memory can coexist with healing, that you can carry the past forward without letting it define you. Lyra does not have all the answers yet, but she is learning to live with the questions, and that, she is beginning to understand, is enough. Tavi comes back on a Thursday evening. Lyra opens the door to find her standing on the porch, holding 2 cups of tea and wearing an expression that says she is not leaving until they talk. Lyra lets her in. They sit at the kitchen table. The cottage is quiet except for the faint sound of wind through the open window. The ring is still on Lyra's finger. It has been there for 3 weeks now. She cannot remember the last time she took it off. Tavi sets the tea down and looks at her. "You seem better." Lyra nods. "I am, I think. You're talking to her." "Every day." Tavi smiles. Soft. Sad. "Good." They sit in silence for a moment. Then Tavi leans forward, elbows on the table, and asks the question Lyra has been dreading. "Why have you never been in a relationship longer than 6 months?" Lyra freezes. Her throat tightens. She looks away, out the window, at the darkening sky. Rain is beginning to fall, soft at first, then harder. "That's not fair," Lyra says quietly. "I know." Tavi's voice is gentle but unyielding, "but I'm asking anyway." Lyra does not answer. She cannot, because the truth is too ugly, too raw, too close to the things she has spent her entire adult life running from. "You're afraid," Tavi says. It is not a question. Lyra's jaw tightens. "Of what?" "Of hurting someone the way she hurt you." Lyra flinches like she has been struck. Tavi does not look away. She never does. That is what makes her a good therapist and a terrifying friend. "You think, if you let someone close, you'll destroy them." Tavi continues. Her voice is steady, calm. "You think your mother's patterns live inside you like dormant code, and if you're not careful, they'll activate. You'll become her." Lyra's hands begin to shake. She grips the edge of the table, knuckles white. "Stop," she whispers. "No." "Tavi, you think love is synonymous with destruction? That intimacy is just a prelude to abandonment? That if you let yourself be loved, you'll prove you're as broken as she was?" Lyra stands abruptly. The chair scrapes against the floor. She walks to the sink and grips the edge, staring down into the basin. Her breathing is uneven. Her vision blurs. "You don't understand," she says. Her voice cracks. "You didn't grow up with her. You didn't watch her destroy everything she touched. You didn't see the way she loved people and then left them bleeding." Tavi stands. She walks over slowly. She does not touch Lyra. She just stands beside her. "You're right," Tavi says softly. "I didn't. But I know you, and I know you're not her." Lyra shakes her head. Tears spill over. How do you know that? How can you be sure? Because you're terrified of becoming her. And she never was. The words hit Lyra like a wave. She collapses against the sink, shoulders shaking, sobs tearing out of her throat. Tavi steps closer and places a hand on her back. She does not say anything. She just stands there, steady, present. Lyra cries until she has nothing left. When she finally lifts her head, she sees her reflection in the small mirror above the sink. Her face is pale, tear-streaked. Her eyes are red and swollen. And for a moment, she sees her mother looking back at her. The same eyes, the same hollow exhaustion, the same expression Maren wore in the weeks before she died. Lyra's breath catches. "I look like her," she whispers. Tavi looks at the mirror, then at Lyra. "Yes, you do." "I'm afraid I am her." Tavi is quiet for a long moment. Then she says, "You're afraid because you love people. Because you know what it feels like to be hurt. Because you care enough to worry. Those are not signs you're broken, Lyra. They're signs you're human." Lyra stares at her reflection, at her mother's eyes, at the ring on her finger. "She threw the ring away because she thought she didn't deserve it," Lyra says. Her voice is hoarse. "What if I do the same thing? What if I throw away love because I'm too afraid to hold it?" Tavi steps in front of her. She places her hands on Lyra's shoulders and looks her directly in the eyes. "You are not your mother," she says firmly. "But you will keep believing you are until you let yourself be loved. Until you stop punishing yourself for her pain." Lyra's throat tightens. "I don't know how." "Start by believing you deserve it." The rain falls harder outside. The sound fills the cottage. The wind rattles the windows. The world feels like it is weeping with her. Lyra looks at the ring on her finger. The ring her grandmother wore. The ring her mother threw away. The ring the ocean returned. She realizes the ring is not just about Maren. It is not just about forgiveness or grief or intergenerational pain. It is about choice. Will she keep it? Will she carry love forward? Or will she throw it into the ocean too, convinced she does not deserve to hold something beautiful? Lyra looks back at the mirror, at her mother's eyes, at her own face, and she says out loud the words she has never been able to say. "I am not her." Her voice is shaking, but it is steady enough. "I am not her," she says again, louder this time. Tavi smiles. Tears glisten in her eyes. "No, you're not." Lyra grips the sink. The cold porcelain presses into her palms. The rain pounds against the roof. The wind howls. And for the first time in her life, Lyra believes it. She is not her mother. She is not destined to repeat the same patterns. She is not condemned to destroy everything she touches. She is her own person, with her own choices, her own future, and she gets to decide what that looks like. After Tavi leaves, Lyra stands at the window and watches the rain fall over Crescent Shore. The ocean is dark, restless. The waves crash against the rocks with a ferocity that mirrors the storm inside her. But beneath the fear, beneath the grief, beneath the weight of everything she has carried for so long, there is something else. Something small, fragile, but real. Hope. She does not know what comes next. She does not know if she will ever be brave enough to let someone love her. She does not know if the fear will ever fully go away, but she knows this. She is not her mother. And that is enough to start with. Lyra returns to work on a Monday morning. She has been gone for 3 weeks. The lab feels strange when she walks in. Familiar but distant. Like stepping into a room you used to live in, but no longer recognize as home. Her desk is exactly as she left it. Field notebooks stacked in neat rows. Microscope covered with a cloth. The faint, smell of salt and formaldehyde hanging in the air. She sits down. She pulls the cloth off the microscope, and she gets to work. Today, she is cataloging barnacles, the same creatures that clung to her grandmother's ring for 33 years. She places a cluster under the lens and adjusts the focus. The shells come into view, small, ridged, impossibly resilient. They are cemented to a fragment of driftwood, their tiny bodies pressed against each other in tight formation. Lyra stares at them for a long time. She has studied barnacles for years. She knows their biology. She knows how they attach to surfaces using one of the strongest natural adhesives in the world. She knows they are filter feeders, drawing nutrients from the water around them. She knows they can survive in harsh conditions. Extreme temperatures, violent waves, long periods without food. But she has never noticed this before. They build homes on drifting things. They do not wait for stability. They do not wait for solid ground. They attach to whatever is moving through the water, rocks, ships, whales, debris. And they hold on. They survive not by letting go, but by holding on. Lyra's throat tightens. She leans back from the microscope and stares at her hands. The ring is still on her finger. It has been there for weeks now. She has worn it through grief and anger and fear and hope, but she does not need to wear it anymore. Not because she wants to forget, but because she has finally learned what it was trying to teach her. That evening, Lyra sits at her kitchen table and writes a letter. The pen scratches softly against the paper. The wind moves through the open window, carrying the scent of salt and rain-soaked sand. The cottage is quiet except for the sound of her own breathing. She does not write much. Just a few lines. Martin, I found your letter. I read it. I understand now. You were not cruel. You were broken. And you thought breaking me was the only way to keep me safe. I forgive you. Not because you asked for it, but because I need to. I am not you, but I carry pieces of you, and I am learning that is not something to be ashamed of. I hope you found peace, wherever you are. I hope you know I loved you, even when I could not say it. Lyra, she folds the letter carefully. She places it in an envelope, and she walks to Crescent Shore. The beach is empty. The moon is full, casting silver light across the water. The waves are calm tonight, gentle, almost kind. Lyra walks to the place where her mother stood 33 years ago. The place where Martin threw the ring. The place where everything began. She kneels in the sand. She digs a small hole with her hands. The sand is cold and damp beneath her fingers. She places the letter inside. She covers it with earth. She presses her palm against the ground for a long moment, feeling the weight of it. I understand now, she whispers. The ocean does not answer, but it does not need to. It has already given her everything it had to give. Lyra stands. She brushes the sand from her hands. She looks out at the water, dark and endless, and she feels something settle inside her. Not closure, not resolution, but peace. The kind that comes when you stop asking for answers and start accepting that some things will never make sense. When she gets home, she removes the ring. She holds it in her palm for a long time, feeling the weight of it. The barnacles have softened with wear. The silver has warmed to her skin. It looks different now than it did the day Cale brought it to her. It looks like something loved. Lyra walks to her bedroom. She opens the drawer of her nightstand and pulls out a small wooden box. It is plain, simple, the kind you might use to store old photographs or letters or things you want to keep safe. She places the ring inside. She wraps it carefully in soft cloth. And she closes the lid, not to hide it, not to forget it, but to honor it. She does not need to wear it every day to carry her mother forward. She does not need to cling to it like proof of her grief. The ring is hers now, and so is the choice of what to do with it. She places the box back in the drawer. She closes it gently, and she walks back to the kitchen. Later that night, Lyra sits at the window and watches the moonlight move across the water. The cottage is still. The world is quiet. She can hear the faint sound of waves in the distance, the wind moving through the dune grass, her own breathing, slow and steady. She thinks about her mother. She thinks about her grandmother. She thinks about all the ways grief can be passed down like inheritance, and all the ways it can be transformed into something softer. She thinks about barnacles clinging to driftwood, building homes on things that will never stop moving. She thinks about the ocean and how it returned something she thought was lost forever. And she realizes healing is not dramatic. It is not a single moment of clarity or catharsis or revelation. It is this: quiet, repeated, small. It is choosing to get up in the morning, choosing to go back to work, choosing to write a letter and bury it in the sand, choosing to take off a ring not because you are letting go, but because you are finally strong enough to hold it differently. Healing is the act of living with the truth, of carrying the past without letting it define the present, of loving people who hurt you and forgiving them even when they cannot forgive themselves. Lyra does not have all the answers, but she is learning to be okay with that. She is learning that some questions do not need answers. Some wounds do not need to be healed completely to stop bleeding. Some things just need to be carried, gently, with care, the way you would carry something precious. 3 months later, Lyra stands at Crescent Shore again. This time she is not alone. Tavi is with her. They are building a cairn from stones. It was Tavi's idea. A ritual, she called it. A way to mark what has changed. A way to choose what to carry forward. They do not speak much. The work is quiet, intentional. Each stone is selected carefully, turned over in their hands, placed with precision. The ocean is calm today. The waves roll in, gently, barely disturbing the sand. The sky is pale blue, cloudless. The air smells like salt and sun-warmed earth. Lyra picks up a smooth gray stone. It fits perfectly in her palm. She holds it for a moment, feeling its weight, and then she places it at the base of the cairn. "What's that one?" Tavi asks softly. Lyra pauses. "My mother's laugh." Tavi nods. She does not ask for more. She understands. They continue building. Tavi places the next stone, then Lyra, then Tavi again. Each one balanced carefully on top of the last. The cairn grows slowly, steadily, taking shape under their hands. Lyra adds another stone. This one is darker, flecked with quartz that catches the light. "My grandmother's strength," she says. Tavi smiles. "Good." Another stone, pale pink, worn smooth by the ocean. "My own capacity for tenderness." Tavi's eyes glisten. She places her hand briefly on Lyra's shoulder, then lets go. They keep building. The cairn rises, 6 stones, 7, 8. Each one a choice. Each one a piece of the past Lyra is claiming as her own, not as burden, but as inheritance. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. When the cairn is finished, they step back and look at it. It is small, simple, just a pile of stones balanced on a beach. But it feels significant, like something sacred. Lyra stares at it and feels something shift inside her. Not grief, not fear, not even hope, just peace. The kind that comes when you stop fighting and start accepting, when you stop running and start building. Tavi sits down in the sand. Lyra sits beside her. They watch the ocean together, breathing in sync, saying nothing. The waves roll in, gentle, unhurried. The water is clear enough to see through. Light dances across the surface, catching the ripples, turning them silver. Lyra thinks about the ring, still safe in its wooden box, still hers, but no longer something she needs to hold every day to prove she has not forgotten. She thinks about her mother, not as the woman who abandoned her, but as the woman who could not escape her own abandonment. The woman who loved her daughter so much she believed the only way to protect her was to leave. She thinks about her grandmother, a woman Lyra never met but carries inside her anyway. A woman whose grief Maren tried to drown but could not. She thinks about herself, standing here, no longer running, no longer afraid, and she realizes the ring's return was not magic, it was timing. The ocean held it for 33 years. It kept it safe. It carried it through currents and storms and the slow, patient erosion of time. And then, when Lyra was finally ready, when she was finally strong enough to hold the weight of it, the ocean gave it back. Not because she asked for it, not because she deserved it, but because she was ready to receive it. "Do you think it's over?" Tavi asked quietly. Lyra looks at her. "What?" "The grief, the fear, all of it." Lyra considers this. She looks out at the water. She looks at the cairn. She looks at her hands, steady now, resting in her lap. "No," she says finally. "I don't think it ever ends, but I think it changes. I think it becomes something I can carry instead of something that carries me." Tavi nods. "That's good." "Yeah," Lyra says softly. "It is." They sit in silence for a while longer. The sun begins to dip lower in the sky. The light turns golden, warm. The breeze picks up, soft against their skin. Lyra reaches out and touches the cairn. Just once. Just to feel it. Solid. Real. Proof that she was here. Proof that she chose to build something instead of breaking it. "Thank you," she says. Tavi looks at her. "For what? For not letting me run." Tavi smiles. "You would have done the same for me." Lyra knows this is true, and it makes her feel less alone. As they walk back toward the cottages, Lyra turns one last time to look at the ocean. It is still, quiet, reflective. Its work is done. It returned the ring. It gave Lyra the chance to confront her past, to forgive her mother, to forgive herself, and now it is simply what it has always been. Water and salt and time. Lyra does not need anything more from it. She has everything she needs inside her now. That night, Lyra sits at her kitchen table and opens the wooden box. She does not take the ring out. She just looks at it. The barnacles have dried completely now. The silver gleams faintly in the lamplight. It is beautiful, not despite the erosion, but because of it. It is a ring that has survived, that has been carried by the ocean and returned, that has been held by 3 generations of women who believed they were too broken to be loved. And now it belongs to Lyra, not as proof of her mother's failure, not as reminder of her grandmother's grief, but as evidence that survival is possible, that love can be carried forward, that you can inherit pain and still choose tenderness. Lyra closes the box gently. She places it back in the drawer, and she turns off the light. The ocean does not return what it takes. Lyra knows this. She has always known this. But sometimes, if you wait long enough, if you are patient enough, if you are finally ready to receive it, the ocean offers you the chance to reclaim what you thought was lost forever. Not because it owes you anything, not because you earned it, but because healing has its own timing, and grief has its own rhythm. And sometimes, the things you need most come back to you only when you're strong enough to hold them. Lyra is strong enough now. She does not know what comes next. She does not know if she will ever be brave enough to let someone love her fully. She does not know if the fear will ever disappear completely. But she knows this. She is not her mother. She is not her grandmother. She is herself, with her own choices, her own future, her own capacity to love and be loved. And that is enough. It has always been enough.